subscribe to my channel.
These days, who wouldn't want to escape the never-ending stress of city life? Especially someone like me, a low-level office worker stuck in the same routine. Every day it was endless meetings, bosses pushing their so-called success plans, and co-workers obsessing over KPIs. It was suffocating. Eventually I had enough. I quit my job, sold my tiny one-bedroom apartment to pay off my debts, and decided to find a quiet place to breathe. That's when I came across what seemed like an ideal place, a small town called Paradise. Clean, peaceful, friendly residents and surprisingly low living costs. It sounded like paradise. When I first arrived, the residents welcomed me with warm smiles. My neighbors helped carry my luggage and even brought over a freshly baked apple pie. There was even a town administrator who gave me a tour of the local facilities and handed me a handbook titled The Happiness Rules. Happiness rules? I chuckled and flipped through it. It seemed harmless things like sorting trash, smiling every day, and being polite. At first glance, this place really did feel like heaven. The house I rented was spacious, spotless, and cost half the rent I paid in the city. I thought I had found my dream. But just a few days after moving in, I began to notice small, unsettling things. One night I posted on social media, complaining about not sleeping well. The next day, several neighbors showed up at my door, overly concerned. One of them even said, "Negative thoughts can harm the whole community, you know." Another time, while I was out for a walk, I heard whispers behind me. When I turned around, a group of neighbors was staring at me, their eyes unblinking and their expressions strangely vacant. These people are way too nosy, I thought, feeling a growing unease. As time went on, I realized the happiness rules here weren't just simple guidelines. During a community event, I saw a neighbor who had been missing for days. He looked completely different, his face blank, his movements robotic. "Where have you been?" I asked. "I went for treatment. I'm happy now," he replied in a monotone voice. "Treatment? What kind of treatment?" I pressed, but he didn't respond. I soon noticed a pattern. Anyone who questioned the community's rules would disappear for a few days and return as a hollow shell of their former self. Their expressions, voices, and even their smiles were eerily identical. It was terrifying. Were they being brainwashed? Or worse, turned into something else? I knew I couldn't stay. I started planning my escape, but it wasn't going to be easy. Every exit was closely guarded, communications were monitored, and the only public transport, a bus to the city, required approval from the administrator. To gain their trust, I acted happier than anyone else. I joined every community event and even volunteered for advanced activities, pretending to embrace every rule. One night, I snuck into the administrator's office and found a list of all residents. Beside each name was a mental state rating. My name was marked as high risk. My heart pounded. Escaping wasn't just difficult, it was dangerous. The so-called treatment was a horrifying process. Residents were locked in a sealed room and forced to watch endless videos about happiness. The videos were paired with high-frequency sounds that grew louder until they overwhelmed the mind. Afterward, they were injected with a mysterious substance that left them expressionless and eerily calm. When they returned, they could only say things like, "I'm so happy," or "This place is paradise." It was as if their personalities had been completely erased. I had to act fast. At the annual fair, I volunteered for everything, putting on an over-the-top smile and repeating lines like, "It's such an honor to serve the community." Eventually, the administrator trusted me enough to assign me a rare task, delivering files to an outside company. This was my chance. I packed a hidden recording device and evidence into my bag, along with some food and water. On the day of the task, I acted thrilled, thanking them repeatedly for the opportunity. As the bus passed through the mountains, I noticed a brief moment of cell signal. I quickly sent the recordings to a friend using a preset offline message. When the bus stopped at a supply station, I saw my chance. I jumped out and ran into the forest. I didn't dare look back. I ran and ran, disappearing into the dense trees. After a grueling night of climbing rugged terrain, I finally reached a small village with cell service. I called my friend, confirmed the files were sent, and then contacted the police. The truth they uncovered was far worse than I could have ever imagined. This community wasn't just controlling residents, It was part of an international organ trafficking ring. The treatment was a way to evaluate residents' health and mark them as potential organ donors. Those judged suitable vanished after community events. The administrators, working with a global crime syndicate, used drugs and brainwashing to turn people into compliant live inventories. What they called a happiness experiment was nothing more than cold-blooded murder. I was lucky to escape, but even now the shadows of Paradise Town haunt me. I have nightmares, avoid crowds, and can't stand hearing anyone talk about happiness or positive thinking. Looking back, my old life in the city might not have been perfect, but at least it was real.